Lunging over trot poles with KPH Raven, utilising the Kula Lunge to help maintain flexion and bend and connection. When I'm introducing a horse to a new exercise, I like to introduce them to that exercise from the ground first. This allows the horse to work their way through the exercise without having the influence of a rider on their back. In this case, I'm going to be working Raven over a set of 4 trot poles to encourage him to engage his hindquarters and to stretch and develop his top line muscles. As Raven is a fairly young, fairly recently broken in horse, I'm going to do this on the lunge first. I am also trying to diversify his work while getting him stronger so that it's easier for him to carry the weight of a rider. I also want to keep him interested in the work that he's doing, which is also why I've incorporated the trot poles. That was a acceptable first attempt at the trot poles, but you'll see as the session goes on, he does improve his way of going both over the trot poles and after the trot poles. On this side, he is actually a little rushed versus the other side, but that works out throughout the session. Now that we have changed direction, I will warm Raven up on the new side. He did actually spend quite a bit longer in walk. I just edited out the walk laps. As you can see, he's already more relaxed on this side, not necessarily because it's his second side, but because he is more comfortable and balanced on this side. So as well as having Raven work in circles, I like to be able to move him around the arena. It makes it easier for him to go straight over the 4 trot poles and also keeps his work more varied. When I'm riding a horse, I don't just ride them in circles, so when I'm training them from the ground, I don't just train them in circles. Of course, one of my ground rules for actually backing a horse is having it be able to walk, trot and canter on the lunge or the long reins in a circle. However, if they do struggle with this, then you can diversify and get them cantering in a straight line if you have the horse correctly connected and balanced and you teach them to stay out, away from you. So you always want to stay in line with the shoulder. So you're forming that triangle with the head forming one point of the triangle with the lunge line attached to it, and then your whip at the hindquarters, facing the hindquarters, forming the other point of the triangle, so then you're the third point of the triangle, if that makes sense. So from there, you can then extend that circle to a straight line, as I'm doing now, and you'll see he goes straight over the poles and then curves off. If I could run a little faster, he might have stayed straight for longer, but the reality is I can only keep him out for so long. And this is why I'm practicing this in his warm-up and on the long side before I send him over the poles. Even though we're only working on trot poles today, I do incorporate canter into his warm-up and work routine to keep the work varied and to keep him interested. I'm also utilising the trot poles, as I said, to improve the connection, which we then want to carry through into the canter. That's a very good rhythm there. So you'll see he circled off before the poles. That's okay. I couldn't keep up with him. Just keep in line with that shoulder to push him down the pole. So it's not a big deal. We'll just circle off and then go again over the poles. Oh, we might have ticked a pole there and he got a little unbalanced after it because he was running. But again, this is part of the process of him learning to slow down and balance and connect himself. Certainly not something to be concerned with at this stage of the game. I want him to be relaxed and happy and enjoy his work. Preferably also to listen to me, but you know, that comes with training. But bearing in mind, I'm working him off one lunge line and on voice commands. That was a good transition to walk. You will see from my training videos that I like to incorporate lots of walk and walk transitions into my work with the horses. I've edited out quite a bit of the walk in today's session because it gets a little boring and tedious, so feel free to fast forward through the walk. But you'll see that he doesn't just walk in circles, he can walk down the arena and be moved around the arena in all three paces. This is obviously easier on the long reins. I can incorporate changes of direction, but for the purpose of today's training, I wanted to give him a little bit more freedom to make the mistakes if he was going to make mistakes without me trying to balance and correct him. He needs to be able to go over the trot poles, maintain a frame and maintain a rhythm and tempo. So that was a quick direction change. I've edited out most of the direction changes because it just is tedious. I'm again looking for him to keep that even rhythm and tempo. He's already looking more connected again on this side, which is what I want. And then I want to be able to move him around the arena and have him listening to me. So part of having him listen to me is going in the direction that I want him to go, whether that be on the curved line, on the circle, or down the long side and then staying on the outside track. As you can see that I'm struggling a little bit. My arena's actually got quite a good footing, but I have a couple of back issues at the moment, so running is not my strong point. He did just flip into canter there, but it was a good transition and it's on the correct canter lead, so I'm just going to go with that.
Come
and
here.
work with it. There is a very unhelpful baby boxer on the arena. The horses are used to it and she does know to stay out of the way for them 95% of the time, except for that one small instance there. She generally just stays in the middle and chews on the end of the lunge whip, which is fine unless I need it. But as you can see, most of the time the lunge whip actually stays behind me anyway, which means the boxer stays behind me. There's an occasional bout of swearing when I actually need the whip. But I like my horses to go off voice commands, be very clear and very consistent with your voice commands. And make sure they can hear you. There's no value in a voice command if you're saying, and trot, and the horse can't hear you. Use a strong upward and trot. Or if you're coming back from canter to trot, then and trot. So use a downward lilt to your voice. And then, as I said, stay in line with the shoulder. And teach the horse to stay out on the circle. If you start moving around the horse will end up lunging you. The horse moves around you. So if you cannot keep the horse away from you, put the lunge whip in front of you, point it at the shoulder and move the horse away from you. The lunge whip is a training aid. It's not just an accessory that's there for decoration. It's also not there to just push the horse forward. It's to aid you in moving the horse around you. And in some instances, if the horse is moving too fast, which is not the case here, you can actually point it at the nose or in front of the nose to slow them down. So all I'm wanting here is for him to slow and steady and get that even rhythm and tempo back. He was going a little bit too quick there for him to go over the poles, and you'll see that he's still too quick. So I'm just going to keep circling him until he slows down and comes back to my rhythm and tempo before we attempt the poles again. So even if that means making a transition back to walk, which we've done, and then back into trot. Nope, stuff that one up. And that's fine, he's allowed to make mistakes. That's why I've put him on the lunge, so he can make mistakes if he wants to. Hit a pole. And he's getting way too hurried, so I'm just going to bring him back to me. So I know I'm patting him as I go past, but I don't want him to think that when I approach him, he's in trouble. So no, he didn't actually do a very good job there at all. That was pretty shit. And now he's just trotting off and ignoring me while I'm trying to adjust the pole. But like I said, he's allowed to make mistakes. I'm not going to punish him for that or go mad at him. It is what it is. I want to be able to approach the horse on the lunge. I want them to stay away from me, but if I want to approach them, I want to be able to approach them without them going, I'm going to get in trouble, because that's not the case. He's just a little too hurried, a little too quick, so bring him back. Make him wait. So I'm not going to take the side reins off every time I need to adjust a trot pole that is knocked. In an ideal world, I'd have somebody there to adjust the poles for me. Or in an ideal world, he wouldn't hit the pole. But he has, so now he has to just stand and wait while I fix it. It's not that difficult. Helpful baby boxer. I expect the horses to deal with whatever situation arises. We have goats here, we have sheep, and we have dogs, and they will all come on the arena. So if your horse lives in an insular environment and something happens unexpectedly, it will have a meltdown. These guys get to see everything. Try to keep everything, expose them to as much as possible so that when the unexpected does happen, there isn't such a big issue. That's better. He's standing better. He's listening to me better. All I want him to do is just stand and wait while I fix the pole without having to give him to somebody to hold or tie him to the fence. I do not tie horses up with bridles. That's better. He's actually keeping pace with me now. Might actually have a horse that's listening to me instead of just running off and powering through the trot poles and sending them everywhere. Nope. Now we've lost all our impulsion. Come on. So it's about finding that balance with the rhythm. Got it. Now I'm just going to send him back around the other direction once more. Try and make sure that he's working evenly on both sides, but also because he was a little hurried on this side to begin with. And I like frequent direction changes as well. When we're riding the horse, we consistently change direction, so you need to incorporate that into your groundwork. And that was a good rhythm and tempo over the pole, so I'm going to finish up the session now. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please subscribe to our channel, Kula Lunge.